And so there is also a result. If you want to do the same with Byzantine failure, okay, so a process can behave arbitrarily, okay, we don't control the behavior. In the crash model, until it crashes, the process is executing correctly, okay, and then it crashes, it stops. So he's never doing bad things except crashing. In the Byzantine failure model, so we don't discuss that, a process can behave arbitrarily. For example, in a message passing system, I'm assumed to send a message, the same to all of you, with my age. Okay? So I'm Byzantine guy, so I send 10 to some of you, I send 80 to others, I send 50 to others, etc. And to another group, I'm saying nothing. So they are thinking I crash. Okay? So that's typically a Byzantine behavior. Okay? So in this case, the limit, the bound on t is more constrained, of course. Okay? So that's possible if t is smaller than n over 3. Okay? Otherwise, it's impossible to simulate. Okay? The retry model on top of a message passing model. Okay? So, the concurrent object. So you have plenty of talk on this topic. So they are the objects that can be accessed by several processes. Okay? And here, so we'll consider concurrent object defined by a sequential specification, okay? Of, you prefer, atomic. Atomic means the specification is sequential, okay? I can, everything, something is correct if it appears as it was executed sequentially. Actually, physically, it was not executed sequentially, okay? But it appears as. And total operation. So what means total operation? Any operation return a result. Okay? So for example, you want to pop on a stack, okay? So you obtain the value at the top of the stack and it is suppressed of the stack, okay? If the stack is empty, we require you have a result. For example, the result is the stack is empty. Okay? So any operation has an answer return for any state of the object, okay? In any state, you can return, okay? So, so the problem is what? Is we want to implement high-level concurrent object, okay? So I have read-write, okay? And I want to implement object, for example, a stack, okay? On top of the system, okay? We know how to do that very well in a sequential system, okay? It's trivial, okay? But we want to do that now in a distributed system in which some processes may crash and the system is asynchronous. So the two adversaries are asynchrony and process crash. But only a minority of processes may crash. Sorry, if I was in message passing, only a minority. In shared memory, any number of processes may crash. Okay? So if we have that, now what is important for an object is to say, if something appears, that's correct. That's the specification. Okay? But there is one way to say, to do, so we can translate. So if you look at an execution, at some point, you have the prefix. And what the suffix is one in sequential computing, what has been done, where you are, and what will be done. Okay, and you don't know what will be done. Okay, for the moment. Okay, so the safety property, correct, means all the prefix satisfies this property. Okay, but there is a one way not to do, never to do nothing that is bad, is to do nothing. If you do nothing, you are doing nothing bad, okay? So you have liveness, as you know. You have liveness. What is liveness? So any object, okay, you have safety property, you describe what is correct, and liveness, you say something happened. So there is a famous definition, intuitive definition by Lamport. Safety states that bad things never happen, and liveness states that something will happen. Okay? So for the stack, for example, safety says that describes the behavior of the stack, okay, what is correct, and liveness is stating if you invoke push, the push will terminate. If we invoke pop, the pop will terminate. Okay. So here, let us go back in a failure-free model. in concurrent system, okay, processes, they access memory. So we know here are no failure. We have two progress conditions, okay? You know deadlock freedom, and you know starvation freedom, okay? So deadlock freedom means that at least one of us will succeed in executing an operation, okay? And starvation freedom means that if you invoke an operation, you'll terminate your operation, okay? Now, in our model, weight-free model is a model where T is smaller than N, okay? The one used by other people the previous day, okay? So lock cannot be used. Okay? You cannot use a lock. Why? Suppose there is I want to build a stack, okay? I'm locking the stack, okay? And then I'm doing some modification, and then I crash before unlocking, okay? It means that the stack is locked forever, okay? So this does not work. So there are three progress conditions that have been introduced. So one is wait freedom, the other one is called non-blocking, and the last one is called obstruction freedom, okay? So what is obstruction freedom was introduced by Maurice Herlihy in this paper, weight-free synchronization. And what is so it's the strongest progress condition you can imagine, okay? He's stating that any operation, so we want to build a stack, okay, push and pop, we have read-write. Any operation issued by a process that don't crash, because if you crash, maybe you invoke the operation and then you crash. If you don't crash, you return, you have a result, okay? So any invocation from you terminate if you don't crash, or terminate until you crash, okay? So the second is called non-blocking, and non-blocking actually, in the context of failure, is similar to deadlock-free. At least one process progresses, okay? So maybe you and me, we want to access the stack, okay? But maybe you succeed, okay? And then you want again to access the stack, and in my case, I'm always trying, I will never succeed, okay? So the non-blocking property is satisfied, but it's not wait-free, because I'm waiting forever, okay? So this was also introduced by Maurice Herlihy, the specialist of progress condition, okay? In this paper, we introduce also linearizability, okay? And finally, the last condition, so I think it was presented maybe by other people, but I was not here on Monday by Nir Shavit, I don't know. So also due to Maurice Herlihy and Victor Lushenko and Mark Moir. It's called obstruction freedom. So what is obstruction freedom? Obstruction freedom is saying, is a more practical point of view, is saying, if I invoke an operation on the stack, okay? For example, the object we are building, okay? And I execute alone during a long enough period, okay? Then I terminate, okay? So if I am alone, it's okay. If there is competition, where two of us trying to access the stack, maybe no one will succeed. We'll be blocked, okay? So we have these three progress conditions. So we are in a system repeating read-write, asynchronous, all but one processes may crash. Okay, that's the model. Now for the object, we have the meaning of the object, and for the progress condition, wait freedom, or non-blocking, or obstruction freedom. Okay, well, you need to take one. Okay. So now we can introduce what is a universal construction. So let PC a progress condition. Wait freedom, non-blocking, or obstruction freedom, okay? So we say that a PC-compliant universal construction, okay? So the object will satisfy this progress condition. So what it is? It's an algorithm that, given the sequential specification of the object, for example, the stack, provide a concurrent implementation of the object satisfying this progress condition, okay? So for example, to fix the idea, suppose I want to build here, I'm taking wait freedom, okay? So a wait-free compliant universal construction is an algorithm that I give to this algorithm the sequential specification of an object, okay? And then it builds a distributed implementation, okay? And the progress condition for the object is wait freedom. Okay? So if you want to access the stack, you invoke an operation, you will terminate, or you crash. Okay? So the input is the sequential specification of an object. The output will be a PC compliant implementation of the object. Okay? So universal construction. So it has exactly the same meaning here, universal construction as a compiler. Okay? A compiler, you give the compiler some text, it's producing an algorithm at the lower level, okay, doing the same, okay, the translation of what you want to do, okay. So here is a little bit, it's not much more complicated. Here there is the notion, in addition, that is distributed, okay. So after seeing an example, that will fix the idea, of course. So if you consider this model, crash, asynchronous read-write, so I will be interested to wait-free compliant in the following, okay? So actually, we'll see that it's impossible to have universal construction, okay? It means that if you have read-write, okay, I want to build a stack, distributed stack, okay? And this stack is such that if you don't crash, if you invoke push or pop, you always terminate, okay? Okay, wait-free, progress condition, okay? And this is impossible. Okay? That's impossible. And this is a famous result, Fisher, Algish, and Patterson, okay? So it was proved first in the message passing context, and then it was proved in the read-write context, okay? So it means that, what is the meaning? The meaning is, if you want to implement a universal construction satisfying this progress condition, wait freedom, okay, this model, read-write, the only way we have to communicate is to read and write the memory, okay, is too weak, okay, it's impossible. So it means that you need to enrich the system with additional operation. You need to have to communicate read-write and something else, okay? And of course, the something else, you could say, something that makes the problem solvable, okay? But we want something that can be offered by a machine, of course. Okay? We want some things that run at the end, of course. Okay? We are not mathematicians, okay? We want something at the end. We need to have a program, of course. So in the following, so I introduce one, very simple, the simplest I know. So the notation will crash, asynchronous read-write, enrich with two operations. Okay? So the way we have to communicate, to coordinate, okay, read the memory, write the memory, or to use the two operations. So I don't know if you are familiar, is link load and store conditional, okay? It's close to compare and swap, okay? But it's not exactly the same. Actually, we'll see that later. LLSSC, the computational power you have with LLSSC is the same as the one you have with compare and swap. Okay? But sometimes things are easier to explain or to program with compare and swap, and sometimes it's easier to explain with LLSSC. So let X a register, a memory location, okay? So what is the meaning? When you invoke link load on the object X, on the memory location X, okay, you return the value of X, okay? It's a read, okay? Actually, it's a little bit than a read, I will see, okay? Store conditional is a conditional write returning yes or no, true or false, as you want, a Boolean value, okay? And what is the meaning? Let PI be the process that issue store conditional, okay? This write succeed, and succeed means the value V that is written, so there is a value V, the value is written into X, that succeed, and you return true, okay? If, only if and only if, X has not been written, okay, since the last invocation you did from x.ll. So I show you an example that will be simpler to look. Suppose process PI is invoking xll. So he's obtained the value of x, okay? And later, here, there is another process PK is invoking, is reading x, okay? So I can reason, okay, as the operation LL and SSC were executed one after the other. Why? because I am assuming that, what is true in practice, LL and SSC are atomic. Okay? And atomic, everything appears as an operation that is done between its start event and its end event, okay? And so I can linearize all the operation, okay? So they are atomic. And so atomicity is very useful to reason, okay? So PI invoke link load. PK invoke link load, so they read. And then PI invoke SSC, store conditional with some value, okay? So this write succeed, why? Because the read by PI and the write by PI, no other process wrote into X, okay? Some processes read X, okay? But no one modifies the value of X, okay? So it obtains succeed. Okay, true. Now, if PK invoke store conditional, it succeed or fail? So look, it invoke LL, it obtains the value, but between this point and this point, okay, this one modifies the value. Okay, there is a write that has been issued by another process, okay, by PI, okay? So this one, it fails. Okay? So the value of X is not modified, and PK obtains the value false. Okay? So if you understand this drawing, you understand the meaning of LL and SSC. Okay? Now, so we can complicate, of course. Suppose a process PI is a process PI, only one process, is invoking link load on X. Then is reading Z, another variable register. Then is reading T. Then is invoking YLL. Then is writing Z, and then is invoking Y store conditional. Okay, LL. Okay, so you can merge. There is no constraint in the order in which you can issue this operation. Okay, everything is allowed. Okay, so the meaning is this one. You have to understand this one. Okay? So this has been introduced already. I don't remember by a colleague. Maybe it was Rashid who introduced the notion of speculative execution. Okay, so it's the same, exactly the same. So how to use this pair of operation, okay? So what you do usually, a process is doing, a process PI is reading the value of X, okay? So I'm using capital letters for the variable, the register in shared memory, and I'm using lowercase letter with an index, okay, to say local variable, okay? So he's reading the value of big X, and he stores it in the local variable xi, okay? And then he's doing some computation according to, so he's taking a photo, okay? According to what is on the photo, he's doing a lot of computation, okay? And he can take 1 millisecond, 10 hours, I don't mind, okay? And after some time, okay, he's computing a new value for X, okay? According to what he read, okay? And its local context, okay? And after some time, he's trying to write store conditional of the value V computed, okay? So, if the result is true, what does it mean? It means that V has been written into X, okay? And it means that between this read and this write, no other process wrote into X, okay? So, in this case, we are doing some statement associated with success, okay? Otherwise, if the result is false, it means between what you read and what you want to write, okay, someone in between, another process wrote into X, okay? So the result, you have false, and you do associated statement, okay? So of course, one way is to, in some cases, we are placing this speculative execution inside the loop, okay? And we continue until we succeed, okay? So that's the basic. So if people are familiar with compare and swap, it's the same, okay? Compare and swap, you read, and here you do a compare and swap. You have exactly the same effect, okay? But there is a problem if we are doing that with compare and swap. The problem can be solved. But you are familiar with compare and swap or not? In compare and swap, suppose I'm reading the variable. I'm reading 1. I'm doing a speculative execution, and I'm doing compare and swap, okay? And in the compare and swap, I'm saying, if the previous value was 1, then write this value, okay? But in between, he read the variable, he got 1, and then he wrote a new value in the variable 2, okay? So if I'm doing my compare and swap after, I'm observing 2, not 1, so it fails. But I'm very slow. After, he wrote 2, another person is reading the X, he's obtaining 2, and he's writing 1. Okay? And then I want to do compare and swap. It is 1, the value I read, okay? And so it is successful. So I was thinking between my reading and my writing, nothing occurred. Actually, it has been modified twice. Okay? So this can be solved. This is called the ABA problem. Okay? And to solve this problem, you need to use sequence number. Because the first write of 1 is sequence number 1, the second write is the sequence number 2, okay? So so I'm reading the value and the sequence number, okay? So as the sequence number change, okay, my write will fail. So here is similar, so you don't need sequence number, okay? So this, you have some machines that propose compare swap, you have other machines, multicore, they present LL, SEC, etc., okay? But they are equivalent, okay? So if you give me 1, I can build the other one, okay? So now I want to present a simple universal construction. So it is due to Panagiotis Fatourou and Niklos Kalimanis. So it appeared 2 years ago. There are plenty of universal construction, okay? So I like this one because it's simple, okay? And here, I consider a simplified writing of this algorithm, this universal construction, okay? And I'm using sequence number, okay? And the problem with sequence numbers is they increase forever, okay? If you look at their paper, okay, actually, the sequence number are implemented modulo 2. 010101, okay? So it means that they are bounded, okay? And we know the bound too, okay? So of course it's more, from a theoretical and practical point of view, it's much more interesting, okay? But it's much easier to assume, to understand the idea that you have sequence number and they can grow indefinitely. So we have 2 data structure in the memory. We have a non-atomic collect object board. I will define it. And we have an array of n atomic memory location. I call them state, okay? So what is the meaning? So the collect object, actually, is an array. I call it board, okay, with 1 entry per process. So there is your entries, there is my entry, etc., okay? And we have 2 operations. Update. So if I invoke update with the value v, it deposits in my entry of the array the value v. Okay? And my new value is v. That's all. So assign v to board of I. Now collect. If I'm doing collect on this object, okay, then so the operation, you read all the value of the array, okay, and you return what you read. So, and this is not atomic, it's totally asynchronous. For example, when I invoke collect board, okay, I read the first entry of the array, okay? Then it was so tiring to read these entries that I wait for 3 hours. Then I reading the entry number 3. Then the entry number 2, okay, in any order, okay? So as you can see, the first value I read and the last I read from another process, maybe they never coexisted at the same time in the array, okay? Because the other modifies their entry, okay? So it's totally asynchronous, okay? So collect is not atomic, okay? Each read of an entry of the array is atomic, but reading the whole array is not atomic, okay? I'm reading that in any order at any speed, okay? And board of I contain a pair. So OP and SN, where this means that the last operation on the object we are building, okay, produced by the process, PI, for the entry I in the array, the last operation is invoked was operation OP, okay, and the sequence number was SN, okay. So here it is 8 and here is push, it means that the last operation issued by PI on the stack was its number 8 operation, okay, and it was a push. Okay, so now we need to understand state. So this, can be implemented because it's asynchronous. The read inside the collect are atomic, I'm repeating. The collect is not atomic, but this can be implemented on a read-write machine, okay? And update is a write, okay? And I assume that this operation is atomic. But this array, I don't want to insist on all the property, but it has a nice, this array, it has a nice property. The entry, okay, the only process to modify the entry number I is process PI. Okay? You modify your entry. You can read all the entry, but you modify only yours. Okay? So this is called a single writer multi-reader register. So now state. So state is an array. So state value, so is an array with n entry. But I am assuming is a memory word that is atomic, okay? And it will be accessed by LL and SSC. So when you LL, you will read the whole array atomically, and when you write the whole array atomically, okay? So state Sn of I is a sequence number of the last invocation on the object by the process PI. Okay? So it's a view of PI. On the object, what did PI the last time? Okay? It executed some operation. So the last one, that's the sequence number. Okay? What is the second field? Okay, is the following one. Is the result of the last operation. Okay? So it invokes for this operation number 50, if here there is 50, okay? Here there is the result associated with the operation number 50 by PI, okay? And there is another entry, value, is the current value of the object, okay? So here we have the current value of the object, and here you register, okay, actually, the last operation issued by each process, okay, individually. Okay? So, before describing the universal construction, it will be a few lines, okay, it's not to be. So I need to describe the object I want to build, the stack, for example. So if here I'm using a traditional way, using an automata, the transition function delta. So the input of delta is the current state of the object, okay, S. And then, if I want to apply this operation, the operation OP with the input parameter in, okay, I call it delta of S, OP of in, okay. So the result will be a pair with the new state of the object, okay, S prime, and this operation return a result, because they are total, okay, all the operation return a result, remember, okay, and the result will be R, okay. So that's a classical automaton, the new state, okay, and the value that it returns for this operation, okay. So now we have all the ingredients to describe the universal construction. So first, we have two things to do. First, when a process has the application layer, okay, invoke an operation on the object with the parameter in, okay? What is doing. So first, board update is saying my last operation I want to execute, that's the sequence number, okay? And what is the operation is OP of in, okay? So it's depositing this pair, okay, in the array board, in this entry, okay? So in your entry, you deposit, I want to execute the operation, and the sequence number, the associated sequence number is this one, SNI. Okay? And then you prepare for the next one, SNI equal SNI plus 1, okay? And then the core of the construction will be this function apply, okay? I will describe it in the next slide. And then, when apply is terminated, what you do, you will return a result, okay? Each operation return result, remember? But the result is coming from where? Is state res the result in the array state for your last operation. You remember? The result so the result of the last operation is u by u, okay? Pi is saved in this part of the array, okay? So when apply is finished, okay, you retry your result, okay, in this entry of the array state, and you return it. Now, so the core. So that's the end of the second slide, and nearly the last one for this construction. So what do you do when you apply? Okay, so you remember you deposited your operation sequence number in the board, okay, in the array board, okay, and then what you do? You read state, okay. So state there is a value and two arrays. You remember, but that's atomic. You read everything, and at the end, you try, okay, to write something, okay? So if no one is invoking, modifying state between your read and your write will be successful. You remember, speculative execution. Now what you do? What you do, you read the array board, okay? So the array board is the array in which each process deposited its last operation, okay? Maybe some of them have been executed, okay, applied to the object, maybe, no, they don't have been applied to the object, okay? We don't know for the moment, okay? So, but you read. So here, when you read, you obtain the value, and let us remember that it's not atomic, okay? It's fully asynchronous. And then, what you do? What you do the following. For any process, for L, 1, 2, 3, N, in any order, okay? If so the pair you obtain, okay? You remember the pair here in board. Remember, board contain a pair with an operation as a sequence number, okay? So you read. So if for process PL, okay, that's the last sequence number, okay? The last sequence number of its last operation, okay? If it is equal to what you read here from state, sequence number of L plus 1, okay? What does it mean? It means that what I read in the state, okay, is LS, is this one, okay, is not the last one, because the last one you want to apply this one, okay? So the conclusion is, from my point of view, the last operation as PA has not yet been applied to the object, okay? So I do it. So new state and the result, delta of ls.value, the value of the current value of the object, okay, and the operation by L. Okay, this has been done. And then I'm also writing the result. ls.result for L is R. Okay, and ll.sn, the last sequence number that have been applied, is the one in the pair, or is this one plus 1, as you want. Okay, it's the same. So you do that for all the other processes. So you read on the board, you say, oh, it seems that this one is late, okay? You apply for an operation not yet executed. You execute for it, okay? If this is false, it means that the last operation you see has been executed, okay, if it is false. And at the end, what you do, you try to write the modification you did, okay? So it's between this reading and this operation. This one is successful, okay? What does it mean? It means that this one is successful. It means that everything appear as is between, between this read and this write, no other process modifies the state of the object, okay? So you apply your modification, okay? If the result is false, it means that some process modifies state, okay? Okay? So maybe what you did, it was speculative, but not successful, okay? That's all. So that's the algorithm. So I'm going to the next slide, and then maybe we'll do a break. So actually, there is something that is important here, the loop. What the loop is doing, okay? So the loop is implementing a helping mechanism, okay? Suppose you read the state, okay? You read the board, what is written. So you read what has been done up to now and what has been posted as operation in the board, okay? And you execute that. So what you are doing here, you are doing a speculative execution, but also you help the other one, okay? Because I'm looking, you want to do your next operation, it has not yet been applied, okay? This is true, okay? So I'm doing the operation for you. And here, if I succeed, I will modify the object according to your operation, okay? So this is a helping mechanism, okay? And there is a theory of helping that has been done by Erez Petrank 2 or 3 years ago, I remember, okay? So there is a strong theory. It's not only a mechanism now, okay? At the beginning it was a mechanism, but now when there is a theory, it means that we have some idea how to use it, what are the properties, etc., okay? So it means that if you want to implement in a weight-free manner, more generally, you need to help the other. If you want all the operation terminate, issued by correct processes, okay, I need to help you, and you need to help me. Okay? Otherwise, that's not possible. So, when L equals J, okay, we are trying to help. First question, and I will stop. Is it possible that an operation issued by a process is executed more than once? And why, of course? Because the answer is yes or no, so we have 50% of So is it possible that a process PJ invoke an operation, okay, and then it has been executed twice or 3 times? So the answer is no. And why? Because suppose for PJ or PL, okay, this is true. You execute, okay? So you simulate locally the operation of PJ, okay? And then you say +1 here. Okay? This becomes this value, this +1, okay? And then if you succeed, if you write succeed, so in the shared memory, there is +1, okay? Okay? So the other one cannot re-execute the operation. The operation with this sequence number has been executed exactly once. Second question. If a process does not crash, you execute that, but you crash at any point. Your problem is solved. But you don't crash. Do you terminate this execution? Or can you block forever without being crashed? No, you cannot block because this is an open operation. This also, here there is a loop, but in this loop there is no waiting statement, okay? Okay? So necessarily, if you don't crash, eventually you terminate, okay? So if you terminate this procedure, eventually, okay, you terminate your invocation, okay, trivially. Now, and we'll solve that after the break, the important question is the result returned for the operation correct? Okay? We show that an operation returns one result. We show that it's not executed twice. We show that any operation terminate, okay? If you don't crash during the execution of the operation, you return. You don't remain blocked. You have wait freedom, progress condition, okay? But is it correct? Correct here it means is the operation returned by your operation appropriate or not? Is correct or not? Okay. So maybe we stop here. Okay. So maybe don't be too anxious to have the answer. Okay, you'll have it on time.